Welcome to a new episode of These Go to 11. Let's turn it up. Hey everybody, welcome back to These Go to 11, an unchurchy conversation about everyday faith. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. This not only helps us to get our content out there, but also helps us to find out what you, our faithful listeners, think. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell. Joining me as always, Greg Dutcher. Greg, what's going on, dude?
What's up, my man? We're dropping the last one in February.
Last one in February.
Dude, just like when I preach on a Sunday, I love coming to that last Sunday. I love coming to the last podcast because all the days ahead of us for quite a while.
Yeah.
We'll get better. Not that March is great.
Yep.
But everything you talk about in March is good.
Yes.
So you know I'm always in a good mood, dude. The audience knows that by now. They're tired of hearing me go off on, winter and all the doldrums. But our last 2 months, dude, and I'm not just saying it, was significantly better for me.
Yeah.
I trust you would see the same.
Yeah.
Largely because of these amazing conversations we had.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, I look forward to every one. It was just so good to talk to these authors who not a one of them had what we would call the credibility gap.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Every single one of them just really, you could tell the amount of study and research they did and put into this. And not just that, but the practical life experience they had to back it up, right? It's not that they had one or the other. They had both.
Oh, absolutely.
So being able to see both of those things and how they interact together was just such a blessing.
Yeah, it was such a combination of experience, born wisdom with, for what do you call it, good old book learning.
Yep.
They're obviously, everybody we had is very well educated. They've invested time and years of their lives into biblical study, but there really is something about that, dude. When you combine knowledge and experience, wisdom is usually born.
Yeah.
And to me, every conversation felt, didn't it? Man, we just scratched the surface.
I know.
And was it Eliza Huey? Because of some time constraints she had, I think she was doing another podcast or another call.
Yes.
We had her just about a half hour.
Yep.
And I remember several people I talked to said, "Oh, I wanted
more." Yeah.
And not that you couldn't say that about every one, but that was neat. And then the other thing we should mention, dude, kind of at the top of our shorter podcast today, is I believe we hit a milestone today.
We did.
Or this month.
Yeah. So we're going to be closing out our series that we're doing today.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the sermon that you preached yesterday and just doing kind of a recap. We're going to remind everyone who's watching and listening, don't forget to comment and let us know on these authors so that you can be put into the drawing for the book review, because Greg and I are going to we're going to release a special podcast next week to go ahead and let you know who won so that you can contact us. And unlike our other books that we did, where about half of them weren't available because they weren't released yet, all of these books are currently released. And so we will get those out to you as soon as possible.
Yes, because I know, she wasn't one of the authors we reviewed. I realized we talked to Elise Fitzpatrick in the fall.
Yes.
And at that time, her 25th anniversary edition of Give Them Grace was not yet out when somebody won it. And I finally got it to that person, Lindsay, a friend of ours who goes here. And then Tom Schreiner, who we talked to, his commentary
hadn't been
still
released,
forthcoming. So we run into that from time to time. In this case, the only one who was on the cusp, I believe, was Eliza, again, trauma aware, but that is now out.
But that came out on February 4th.
Great.
So that's out and available. But yes, our milestone.
Yeah.
We are celebrating 10 years, man.
Woo!
Dude, where we started versus where the podcast kind of progressed and moved to versus where we are now.
Yeah.
We're probably close to where we started when we started doing this, but it is still a little different. The DNA's there, but it has evolved into something a little different.
I agree, as things do, just like we do, right?
Yep.
I mean, I always say I'm essentially the same person I was 10 years ago, but there's some things that are different, right? You can tell it's me. Look, the hairline, the svelte cut. That's just for you that are only listening.
That's right.
And maybe have never actually laid eyes on me. But for those that are watching, I'm sorry for the lie. But yeah, we change. We're essentially the same, but we have new experiences and new perspective. Things that you once prioritized maybe are backburnered and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think our podcast is like that. But dude, again, for the umpteenth time, my favorite aspect is that I'm so thankful for CFC allowing me to make this part of my kind of pastoral work.
Yes.
Where in the past it was something on the side.
Yeah.
Which would account for our many guest hosts when I focused on other things in life, my kids' doings and goings on, and just life curveballs.
Yeah.
And dude, just so I know, those gentlemen are Steve Hartland.
Yep. Steve came on and joined after you left.
Yes, he was sort of the first fill-in, not fill-in. Steve's his own dude.
Yep.
Still a good friend.
And then there was kind of a transition where I had some guests on and was kind of interviewing them on my own.
Yep.
And then we had one Zach Bartles.
Zach Bartles, who held the fort down for a while, published author, a pastor out in Michigan.
Yep.
And then
Nathan
our
Bartleball.
mutual friend Nathan Bartleball, which we had Nathan B and Nathan B.
That's right. And, not like it was confusing at all.
No, not at all. And Bartleball is still a lifelong friend of this cast.
Yes.
Who we tend to bring on when we want to do a deep dive pop culture geekdom. Which we're always going to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and we can even give it away. That is going to be what we're doing in April.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fun.
So, we've just finished out this series on mental health, mental awareness, and we knew it was going to be a needed but much heavier topic.
Yeah.
And so we decided that we wanted to start to bring things up a little bit more.
Yep.
And so we're moving from this in March. We're doing a series on apologetics.
Yeah.
And then in April, we're going to take the time to do a looking ahead, looking behind on movies and entertainment, TV shows, things that we're watching, why we like them, why we appreciate them for what they are.
And why it doesn't make you unspiritual if you like those things.
Yeah.
Because that's always a... And I do want to encourage you, if you view those as timeouts, hey, that's your business. You're like, I don't really like that. We don't. And Nathan, I'm laying our cards on the table here. We don't view those for us as timeouts. Like I honestly feel my view of something I consume, whether that's like what we're about to eat with our dinner tonight, or what I consume media-wise, is just as much a part of my thinking, my life, my perspective as anything else. And so we talk about these things. We have some fun with them.
Yep.
But, I mean, we really do look for redemptive aspects in story. And I just think we were designed to be story listeners and storytellers. Yeah. I mean, Jesus certainly, story was a big part of his interactions with us. I mean, he could have just given us straight distilled theorems and propositional statements. And he does that sometimes.
Right.
You know, there are some axioms, those faithful in little is faithful in much. But even those axioms tend to come at the end of a story.
Yes.
Right? I did a series years ago on the parables, dude, called Storytelling.
Yes.
And I've thought of returning to the parables because we scratched the surface, doing that at some other point, maybe a summer series. So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But dude, what a great 10 years. And to be just back in the swing of it consistently. And I got to say, you don't want to say it about yourself, but I will. This dude here to my side is a workhorse because, again, I don't know too many guys that have a heart attack and literally don't miss a cast. I mean, dude, you thought you earned at least 1 week to put your feet up in the Barca Lounger, drink some little drink with an umbrella in it, and relax. But you never did.
No.
And honestly, Nathan, it's been as I'm congested, probably because I got a little emotional. It's been an awesome blessing.
Oh yeah,
to be able to have this.
I've loved it, and really, when you think about what the podcast was born out of, it was just we loved getting together and talking
and say, hey, put 2 mics on us.
Yeah.
And let us, what my kids would call yap.
Yeah.
They'll say, it sounds like there's a whole lot of yapping going on in there. And I said, yes, there are.
There is.
Oh,
there is.
I'll give one last detail Lisa reminded me about. I'm just going to say it now. Do you remember a name we considered for this podcast? And Lisa said it would have been so bad you could never have gotten a guest.
I remember a couple that we did. So the one that I remember that keeps coming to mind is the Drunken Peasant.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that we had toyed and bantered around back and forth for a little bit, going off of, it was attributed
to Luther
as saying, grace and legalism, or liberty and legalism are like a drunken peasant on a horse,
right?
Where you tend to lean toward one, and then you realize, and then overcorrect and lean,
or overcorrect.
Yeah.
I love that analogy, dude. Yeah, because it's in a sense, it's what we're trying to do. You're trying to walk a path that's laid out for us in Scripture. And he said it. The drunken peasant. You're starting to fall off the horse. Oh, you readjust.
Yep.
And you're always trying to stay straight and center. That was one. And maybe the drunken would have been tough. But Lisa reminded me. I meant to tell you this last week. She said, "Weren't you guys thinking of calling it Those Aren't Pillows?" And she said, "Can I ask why?" Did either of you entertain that for a nanosecond? I said, because we are immature.
That's right.
And that is the answer. I have no more response to that. But we are not the drunken peasant.
We are not.
Or these
are the
those aren't pillows. We are These Go to 11.
Yes.
Another pop culture reference, of course. But nevertheless, it's been fun. And anyway, dude, I know we're going to kind of recap these last, almost 2 months now. But we had to give that little 10-year shout out.
Yeah. So to us, dude, another 10 years.
May the Lord give another 10, man. I'm ready for it. I'm all here for it.
Awesome. So let's why don't we go ahead? We'll recap the authors first.
Yeah.
Just so we can remind the audience. And again, this will be a plug as we're going through the authors. Don't forget to listen to the podcasts, watch the YouTube videos, like, comment. You can send us a review on any one of the platforms that you listen to. You can go to Apple iTunes and do a review there. You can send us an email, these go to 11, all spelled out, and then the number 15 at gmail.com. These go to 1115. If anybody's wondering, the 15, we started the podcast in 2015, and just these go to 11 was already taken. So it's these go to 11, these go to 11, all spelled out, 15 at gmail.com. Any one of those things, and then let us know which podcast you listen to. Give a little brief synopsis of, hey, I really loved, that you had so and so on. That's really all it has to be.
Really, just a quick plug.
Yep. And then you will be entered into a drawing to receive, for each author, we are giving away 2 books to 2 individuals. And so if you do that for all of the authors, you will be entered in for all of the authors, and you could potentially win multiple books. So please make sure you do that. And there's still time. This podcast is releasing February 25th, and you will have until next week, March 2nd. First?
Let's think. There's 3 days.
Oh, wait, 21st, 2nd.
Plus 4 days,
3rd.
March 4th.
Yeah, so
Tuesday morning.
You'll need to get to us by March 3rd.
Yeah, Monday, March 3rd. There we did it. Now, if you're listening to this years from now, ignore it, because this is all in 2025.
Right.
So if you found us in 2032, hey.
I'm sure we've got some other contest going on.
We'll have another contest going on at that point,
So make sure you do that and get in. Again, as we said earlier, these authors were fantastic. The resources and materials that they put out are fantastic as well, and we know you will benefit from that. So with that,
yes,
starting back at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do it from memory. And tell me, I know we're time managing this cast. How far have we gone so far?
We're 15 minutes in.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So that'll help measure my comments. We're going to go fairly quickly, but try to make a meaningful comment about each one. We started, I know, with Dr. Craig Svensson.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, I believe pharmacology expert. He's sought after. He has spoken in many, many conferences, medical, theological, otherwise. Very accomplished man. And I don't know, of all the folks we talked to, Nathan, not that it's a contest, his unique suffering really stood out to me.
Yeah, the fact that he has just lived with chronic pain virtually his entire life at this point, and what that just does to him, not only physically but emotionally and psychologically as well. I can remember very distinctly him talking about the idea of standing up in a parent-teacher conference that he had, and
I remember that.
He just felt so embarrassed and ashamed, like I can't even sit down and be in this thing, and never really thinking about it from that perspective before. That you think about the physical pain, but just what's going on emotionally to a person who's dealing with that too.
Yeah, agreed. And I think he was the one that made the observation that I feel like everybody made, and in their own words, he may have said it, that to learn to desire God more than relief was one of the most insightful spiritual lessons / experiences he's ever had.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that stood out to me. I guess it's because I trust you, most of us, right?
Yeah.
We're tempted to equate God with relief.
Yes.
In some ways, understandably, because God is good. He loves us. He takes no joy in our pain. I think we can look at Scripture and see all of that. But that's a different equation.
Yes.
When God equals relief, then God is God.
Yes.
And beginning to desire Him in a unique way. I think I never got past that thought. I hope I never do.
Yeah.
Because it's one that, to me is aspirational.
Yeah.
I'd love to say I live it every time I experience pain, but I don't. But what a great guest he was to start us off.
It's, serendipitous, dare I say, God's providence that we are talking about this right now, because earlier today I was going through a New Testament survey, 7th and 8th grade boys in my classroom, and we landed on 2 Corinthians chapter 12, which is where Paul, talks about the thorn in his side and pleads with God, and God's response to him, "My grace is sufficient for you."
And you know what's amazing about that, dude, is it's fresh on my mind because I preached on that. Well, not 2 Corinthians 12, but yesterday. As we wrapped up our series on suffering, I referenced Paul's cataloged sufferings in chapter 11.
Yes.
Beaten, shipwrecked, abandoned, left for dead, hated by his countrymen, many nights without food, without sleep, etc. And then you get to chapter 12, and beyond all that, there's some thorn.
Yes.
He lived through all the other stuff.
Right.
And then he's got this thorn that he begs the Lord to take away. And again, that's a very fitting reference for Dr. Svensson. So let's keep moving, dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess, I believe our next guest, forgive me if I have the order wrong, was Liz Edrington.
Very good. Yep.
Who wrote a really wonderful book.
Yeah.
I think it's right here.
Yep.
For those of you watching, Anxiety, Finding the Better Story. It's a 31-day devotional for teenagers on the subject of anxiety.
Yeah.
And I don't know, dude, she just had her finger on the pulse to me.
Yes.
Of what teens deal with today.
Yes. Yeah.
And you keep talking, dude, as I multitask and text my lovely wife that I'm podcasting.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that was, there were several things that I really enjoyed about this podcast with Liz. One of them being that this was not, to me, just a devotional for teens.
Yes.
That there were things as Joy and I were driving, and she would be reading this so that we could be familiar with it to be able to talk about it on the podcast. I felt like, I mean, to me, this is good for anyone to be able to sit down and read.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, the fact that she has a good handle on what's going on in culture with teens today is fantastic. But the reality is the truth of what she presents is universal to any age.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just so brilliant and genius in the way she writes and presents. The other thing that I just thought was so great was she talked about the idea of anxiety being present with everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not a unique situation to you. Everybody deals with it. And so because everybody deals with it, let's learn how to get through it together. Let's learn how to deal with it together.
Yep.
And again, not necessarily like there's some magic fix-all button to get through it, but no, we're all walking in this together. We're all anxious together about something, about anything, about everything. And so let's help each other through this journey.
Agreed. It was very freeing how I remember asking her, both of us did, questions about the church community. That was a theme we'd ask a lot, and we got a consistent answer. We need each other. She really emphasized that. And it's interesting you say that, dude, because Kevin Yee, who is one of the endorsers, wrote, "This is a book I didn't know I desperately needed."
Yeah.
This isn't a teenager.
Yeah.
This is a college and young adults pastor at a church in California. The freedom and grace that it offers are a massive gift to the church. It's so helpful, so practical, and so deeply Christ-centered. I wish every teenager could have a copy.
Yeah.
And it's really, really good, particularly if you have a teen. And then moving on next, dude, am I right? Yes, you got the book. That's where we had the first time we invited a responsible adult in addition to the guests. The guests were all responsible. But we felt we needed a responsible adult, so we invited Lisa Dutcher.
That's right.
On that podcast because for some reason, dude, you and I did not want to talk to Christine Chappell about postpartum depression
and working through depression and motherhood.
We thought maybe we lacked a little credibility,
right?
Dealing with that. So having we both weighed in on that.
Sure.
Listening to two very smart women, moms, interact on that subject was great.
Yes.
And boy, Christine had so much wisdom to offer.
Yes.
This was, I love the little blurb on the book. Are you a mother whose hope has vanished, whose world seems so drained of color, whose life is overshadowed by clouds that never seem to part? Boy, how many women feel that way? How many moms in particular when they are elbow deep in all kinds of things.
Right.
We'll just
life.
Say that. Life and all that life brings and drops on them.
Right.
Very timely, refreshing conversation we had.
Yeah.
And Christine is not a slouch. She does her own podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
And I see her stuff all the time. I think you do too.
Yep.
She's very active. She's very forward thinking.
Yes.
And we got really, really jazzed by that podcast. And I have some ladies who reach out to me personally and were very specific about why it helped them so much.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say it was rather personal.
Yeah.
But it felt great just to know that some other voices that maybe you and I could not vocalize on our own could really serve and bless these women. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna make my first swing and miss, dude, as we go to who was next. Okay, we have talked about. Hold on, we've talked about Dr. Svensson. We talked about Liz. We talked about Christine. I'm gonna say the next person in the lineup was Eliza Huey.
Good guess.
Oh, that one, dude. We got a lot of response on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that was the 30-minute one.
Yes. Yeah. The topic of trauma is so, I mean, all of these topics, let's be real, are talked about, understood within the church. That's why
we did the 2 months, yeah.
But the topic of trauma and how people deal with trauma is so needed and so appreciated that she is there talking about it, and not just talking about it, but she's training a generation of people coming up to be able to talk about it and counsel on it as well.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I loved and appreciated was her clear articulation about what trauma is, right? Yeah. This isn't, we use that word all the time.
Oh, sure.
And I think this is where, the church and people in general hear these catchphrases and they think, oh, well, they say trauma, but she was able to just start to, no, this is life-changing, life-altering stuff. This isn't, you broke up with your boyfriend, you broke up with your girlfriend, you're sad, this, that. No. Something has happened that has just devastated and dramatically shifted and altered the course of your life.
Yeah, and I think what stood out to me, Nathan, on that is in the 10 years that we've been doing this, I mean, every conversation is fresh. We're going to talk to people about depression again.
Yeah.
We've talked about depression a lot. As you know, I tend to be an open book on that on purpose. But I don't know if we'd ever talk to anybody specifically about that subject.
Yes.
So it really did, of all the conversations we had, which were all excellent, something about that short 30-minute conversation really stood out. And I really believe the Lord's given an enormous amount of wisdom to Eliza Huey on that subject. Mm-hmm. And she's counseled people that have been in war, that have been through physical abuse, emotional abuse. If you remember, I asked her in that episode about, she was very nice about it, but I said, does somebody that is so familiar with actual real trauma, if a guy like me might drop the joke sometimes, Ben and Jerry's did not have the Tonight Show brand, and it was I'm traumatized.
Right.
And she was so good natured about it, but if you read between the lines, she didn't dig it.
Right.
And I understand why.
Yeah.
So if anything, that was just another moment. You should be careful because yes, I think like everything, the drunken peasant again. And you can hear some people are kind of cynical and jaded about trauma, because it's overused. And maybe it is overused in some cases.
Right.
Student that bombed on a quiz at college, it's depressing, it's disappointing, unless that's part of a massive collapse in life. Is just that sucked. I bombed my chemistry quiz.
Right.
But so often people can, in this day and age, go, oh, no, it was traumatic for me.
Right.
And, we can go to two extremes, make light of everything or be cynical about everything or over-dramatize trauma. She just stayed in a really grounded, common sense lane, brought scripture to bear on it. So, that book, Trauma Aware, would be one, again, we'd be happy to give out if the time comes.
Yep.
When the time comes.
When the time comes.
Now, moving on, I think we got it, dude. I think it was Dave Harvey.
You are correct.
Oh, I think I'm going to get them all now, dude.
All right.
With shout out to Matt Smith.
Yep.
I'm not sure Dave Harvey would have given us a time of day if we didn't name drop Matt. Matt and Dave have a past association.
Yep.
And, some church networking, planting initiatives. And, dude, Dave Harvey was fun for me because I remember years ago giving a book out to pre-married couples called When Sinners Say I Do, written by Dave Harvey.
Yep.
And the title was just so good. I wish I'd come up with it. Isn't that just a brilliant title? What happens when sinners say I do?
Yep.
Because that is going to cover every single marriage.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really just a practical book. So I knew a little bit about Dave, again, at a distance, and I knew of him through Matt. Mm-hmm. Like Dr. Svensson, Dave was an open book.
Yes.
About their own pain. I don't know if we'd mentioned Dr. Svensson lost an adult child.
Yes.
Dave Harvey and his wife lost an adult child.
Yes.
And now well into their 60s are raising their
young grandchild.
Their grandchild. And, he said, you asked me if I ever thought I'd be back doing diapers, back doing the, 2 o'clock in the morning, routine, checking if the baby has a fever. No, but I'm right back there.
Yeah.
So really spoke out of an experience that I hope most people never go through. And I think he said that as well. But just gospel-driven wisdom in that conversation.
One of the things that stood out to me that I've never heard really talked about before was, he talked about his daughter losing this battle with addiction.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found interesting, though, was he didn't really question her faith, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something to remember is, somebody can be addicted and be a believer.
Of course.
Right. And so being able to acknowledge that and just say, she was human.
Yep.
She sinned and she failed and lost. She battled and lost. Right. Yep. And there are people who would be tempted to look at those things and, kind of snub their nose and all that stuff. But the reality is the acknowledgement that, no, I saw the battle. I saw the struggle. It's very real. Right. And that just, so good to hear and be reminded of, right? Yeah. That for every person who is addicted to something, whoever person that's struggling with something, right? It's a struggle. It's a battle. Yep. They wrestle with themselves in this. They wrestle with God in it.
Yeah, it reminds me of the oft-quoted Brennan Manning observation in A Ragamuffin Gospel where he says, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, my whole life I've always heard the victorious story. I was an alcoholic and then I became a Christian. Mm. And then he said, was there any hope for me? Because my story was I was a Christian and then I became an alcoholic. Mm. And the gospel is still operative.
Yeah.
It still works. It has a message for that person. And did you know, that's kind of the whole tone and tenor of the kind of pastoral ministry that I want to characterize my run, however long the Lord gives me. Part of it is, I'll be blunt, I tend to think we've got plenty of victory preachers.
Yeah.
A lot of victory. Yeah. I mean, they're dare I say, a dime a dozen. I'm being a little bit callous when I say it. I'll admit my bias. I got really tired in the journey of meeting people that are beat down, exhausted, feel like they don't know where to go, and basically gave up play acting so they could be accepted by their Christian friends.
Yeah.
I thought, wait a minute. If the gospel's good news, it's got to speak to the many people in that situation. And here's the secret, dude. We all know all of us will be in that situation if we haven't been already at some point. So Dave Harvey, I think your point is right, really helped, I think, remind us the gospel is still good news.
Yes.
And it still has a word of hope and encouragement to he and his wife that are going through something just exquisitely painful and really beyond quantifying. Yeah. And it was very, very powerful. And then our last guest, dude, and I think I've got it, was Leslie Schmucker.
Yep.
And with a name like Schmucker, it's got to be good. I've been waiting to drop that. I wasn't going to do that with Leslie because to do that with Leslie probably would have been like when I have students, dude, in my classes at Towson or whatever. If I ever have a girl named Hannah, I say, Hannah, I'm going to say something to you that probably nobody's ever said in your whole life. Hannah Banana. And I normally get the eye roll. Oh, my goodness. I was like, no, I'm the first person to ever make that observation. But, with a name like Schmucker. But Leslie, dude, everybody had such a unique experience.
Yeah.
And hers was tied in that she and her husband took in a child, fostered. And, dude, I'm blanking. Did they adopt?
They did eventually adopt, yes.
They did. It started as a foster situation.
Yep.
And talk about, to use the literary term, overused term, subverting your expectations.
Right.
Like if you get that as a script, okay, now let's have the beautiful stories, the moments of closeness. And it was not a pretty story.
No.
And boy, she did not pull any punches.
Yeah. No, and that was so good to hear and remember that, there were days where, her and her husband were not happy with each other, right? Where
so honest about it, about how it almost cost them their marriage.
Yeah. And even till today, like the impact that it had, particularly on their daughter, who was closer to the age of this young lady that they adopted, just working through that even till today, the struggles that they've had and have had to work through.
And how cool that they now have this adult relationship.
Yeah.
where her daughter is aware,
yes,
and with her permission, to kind of chronicle those stories, of how difficult things were, and how stressful, and at times just that sense of I got nothing, I'm at the end of my rope, And interestingly enough, if you remember, dude, Leslie was our first interview.
She was supposed to be our first, right?
Yeah, she was, and we tried, and we were like, oh, we couldn't do it. We can't get the technology working, and it ended up we probably could have. We ended up Zooming with everybody, and it worked just fine. And but it was a really great way to end the series. Earthy, real, and again, the thing that stood out to me, I heard a pastor say this years ago, dude. When you find people who have that deep dug-in hope in Jesus, when there's no foreseeable, observable reason that they would have that hope. Like, I don't see anything on your horizon that looks great right now. Things might be hard for a while. I don't see anything in your present circumstance that looks like, well, that's not as bad. Everything was tough. Everything was challenging, whether they were talking about trauma, anxiety, the loss of a child, chronic health issues. Everything was tough. But when you find people like that are digging in deep in their faith and clinging to Jesus, get with those people. Well, we had 6 of them. Right? We rolled out 6. Am I right? It was 6?
Yeah,
there was 6 that could weigh in and speak out of their wisdom and experience. And boy, it was a real blessing.
So we are monitoring the time on this one.
Oh yeah, dude.
So before we close out, though, I do want to our big takeaways from the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I'll go first, so that way you can't steal mine.
Yeah.
My big takeaway from this, something that we asked them, how was the church helpful and how was it hurtful?
Oh yeah.
And this goes to something that you have said before, right? When the church is on, there's nowhere better that you can go to find grace and the love of Christ. And when the church is off, you could go anywhere else and find better grace and comfort.
It's true.
And so, I think it's just important. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this is because in this area in particular, the church needs to do better, right? This is a challenge for everyone out there. If you're in a church and they're not doing this well, get on them. If you're a pastor listening to this and you don't feel like you're doing this well, get better. And if you're in a church and they're doing this well, then continue to be a part of that community that's showing the love and support that whatever place you find yourself, right? Everyone can put themselves in one of these categories. And wherever you're putting yourself, right? Be part of the community that's loving and building one another up and showing people, drawing people closer to Christ.
Absolutely, dude. Well said. Mine is similar. I'm not going to steal yours. The church, I would just say it was the unspoken of every conversation. You, listening, watching, both, are not alone. There is all around, there is just this solidarity and connection that we share. But the thing is, when you go through these trials, and I do this myself, for whatever reason, isolation sets in early. You often feel like everybody else is fine and living their life, and I'm dealing, and why? The why is me. And to just step out and see, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. In fact, dare I say, this is normative. This is the experience of God's people. I'm reading it in Scripture when I read the Psalms. Now I'm hearing it. And it even helps me. I wish I could do this more regularly, dude. But when somebody is a jerk to you, to give yourself a moment to think, what are they experiencing? That might make me say, okay. Okay. Now that I know that. They're part of the same shipwreck that I'm a part of.
Right.
And we got to look to the same rescuer, because he's our only hope. So that really stood out to me in every conversation. Because it wasn't just our guest experiences, but the people they had talked to, the people who had ministered to them, who had suffered. You start getting exponential. When you consider how this is true. And then I think of like First Peter, when Peter writes, I write these things to you, brothers. And so basically he says that you might know these things are happening all over the world.
Yeah.
Because I'm convinced an enemy tactic is to isolate, make us think we're the exception, we're all alone. You are not. There's a brotherhood and sisterhood of people around you. And then to kind of couple that with your observation of the role of the church, some incredible things can happen. It was a good 2 months.
It was
really,
great,
really blessed.
Awesome. Well, once more, just want to reiterate, if you have not listened or you have not commented or responded to be able to get into the drawing for these books, please make sure that you do that. You have until March 3rd, Monday, March 3rd, 2025. I'm going to say 3 p.m. 3 p.m. is the cutoff.
3 p.m. Eastern
Standard Time.
Is it? Yeah, standard.
Yep.
Right, because we don't do daylight until March 9th.
Yep. So Eastern Standard, March 3rd, 3 p.m. Get in those comments on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
MySpace,
whatever. I even think I've
Vine
kind of taken my TikTok and I've put that out there as showing some of these short videos and things like that. So email, whatever it is, make sure you contact us and let us know that you listened to whoever it was that you listened to, and you'll get put into the drawing. Remember, email, these go to 11, all spelled out, the number 15@gmail.com. Dude, until the next time, we just rock the Casbah. Thank you again for listening to These Go to 11, an unchurchy conversation about everyday faith. Once again, please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you ever find yourself in the Forest Hill, Maryland area, please feel free to stop by at 135 Industry Lane, and you can get all of our service times and information at christfc.org.
These go to 11.